Welcome to the Dance to Oneness podcast. My name is Amy Shine, and I'm inviting you to discover and explore the many different paths to more possibilities. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Dance to Oneness podcast. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. My name is Amy Shine, and I have a very special guest with me today, Cara Wright. So Cara Wright is an access consciousness facilitator, and she is an Xmen facilitator. And Xmen is a body of work that is part of the classes you can take with access consciousness. And it's something that I have started to kind of look. I've taken some Xmen classes this year, and it's a topic and an area I've started to kind of jump into a bit more this year. And it's starting to give me like a lot of freedom and a lot of space. And I really wanted to get Cara on here today because a lot of people are interested in this topic. They're like, Xmen, what's that? And they're not really sure what it is. They're not really sure if they're an Xmen. They're not really sure, like how it applies to them, but somewhere they kind of know it does apply to them. So welcome, Cara.
Thank you.
So, to begin with, let's start with, what is an Xmen?
Yeah, which is, it's kind of a loaded question. And it's like, from my perspective, there are a lot of more Xmen and on the planet than people realize. Because Xmen is basically a body of work that deals with where you are different, and not just different because you've chosen, pink hair, but you're literally like wired differently. You perceive the world in a different way. You engage with your environment in a different way. And for a lot of people, and for a lot of kids and people in the world, they do get diagnosed with different things based on this being wired differently, like neurologically different. There is a neurodiverse community in the world that is starting to be seen more. And of course, this reality does a lot of that's different. That person is different. So let's name it and define it. A lot of times from the perspective that difference isn't actually okay, that it's not okay to be different and to perceive the world differently and to be aware of things that other people aren't aware of. And so some of the more common labels that people will get will be like autism, OCD, ADD, ADHD, dyslexia. There's a lot of things that are considered mental disorders, like a lot of the schizophrenia, a lot of the bipolar, a lot of the dissociative disorders, like any place where somebody is actually different from the norm in such a way that people have looked to define it a particular way. Because this reality is like, in order to handle anything, we have to know what it is. And so Xmen is a body of work where we actually start to look at those areas where you're different, like really tactilely different, neurodiverse in some way, and look at it not from the perspective of we have to define it and label it so that we can fix you, but look at it from the perspective of what's right about this you're not getting, and like what does that actually give you access to or create for you in your life that you've never either known enough to tap into or had the tools to know what to do or be with it. So for me, it's an amazing body of work. I personally did not realize that I was an Xmen. I thought this body of work had nothing to do with me. I was not diagnosed with any sort of specific label growing up, but what it looked like to me was I was shy. I was emotional. I was overdramatic. I was not social. Like, so even if you've never been diagnosed with autism or ADD or ADHD or all these different things, like, what have people projected at you or said that you are that is possibly an indication that you're just very different and that you perceive the world in a very different way? And that's what's cool about this Xmen body work, is you actually get to start to get clear on how you are different, and then how you can use it to your advantage, and how you can create your life in a different way.
I love that, because it's like so much of us, like you said, even if we weren't labeled or, you know, put with a certain label on us growing up, like, so I would have been like too fast, did too many things at once, didn't focus, you know, couldn't finish one thing and I'm gone on to the next, you know, said too much, like all this kind of stuff. And different, like, and then also very conflictual universes too, where then on the other end, I didn't want to talk to people. I didn't want to be around big groups. I didn't, you know, I kind of wanted to just like be in my own world. So there was like a lot of conflict in my world, and people try to define you as this thing. And one of the beautiful things, like you just said there, is like, it's actually, what if the stuff that you judged about yourself was actually the stuff that was a capacity?
Yeah.
And mostly in this world, we judge that stuff so bad because, you know, we don't fit in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would say I'm socially awkward at best. Like, even when I'm really trying to be not socially awkward, that's like when I'm the most socially awkward oftentimes. Like, and that's not okay here. It's not okay to be different. Like, it's not okay to, you know, I would have so many different meltdowns, and just really spent a lot of my life wondering why nothing here makes sense. And this Xmen body of work really was the thing that started to change my perspective from why does nothing here make sense, from the point of view that it should make sense to me, to nothing here makes sense. Like, what do I actually know? It's a huge difference. And it allows you to actually be more of you in the world, and also to start to cultivate a level of trust with yourself. One of the things that plagued me before I found Access, and even and you know, like the first year, I've been doing Access, using the tools of Access for probably 6 or 7 years now. I've been using the tools of Xmen for probably 4 of those years. And one of the things that plagued me all the time was doubting myself. And I still struggle with doubt. Like, doubt is one of the things that will creep in and really distract me from what I know is actually possible, distract me from what I know about myself, and undermine and kind of destroy the level of trust I have for myself, the level of allowance I have for myself, like all these things that you could be for you. Doubt is one of those things for me personally that I really struggled with. And, you know, before Access, I had a lot of, this is going to be weird because it's like backwards now. I had a lot of anxiety. I had a lot of depression. I had like massive panic attacks. I doubted myself a lot. And so much of it stemmed from, I would look around and be like none of this shit makes sense to me. None of it. So, you know, that might be true for you too. Like, if you're struggling with that, if you're looking around going, wow, I must be completely off my rocker because I do not get it here. Like, what if that is just an indicator of a greatness that no one has actually given you the information that you have and that you be? So I love Xmen tools.
Cara, like, because you mentioned anxiety there, and I know that's something I've also had to battle a lot with, and a lot of people who have these kind of Xmen traits tend to sometimes get a lot of anxiety or depression or racing thoughts. a lot of mental stuff. So what's one of the two from?
That's such an understatement. Oh my God.
I'm like fluffing it down. Like, really, we all think we're mentally insane.
I used to describe it that it felt to me like I was literally hanging on the edge of a cliff with my fingernails. Like it just, like I would just feel like I was just trying to get through. I don't even know what, but I just had that sense all the time in my body and in my being of just like, oh my God, I just have to get through it. And I was like, get through what? I have no idea. But that was like, it was so intense for me. Yeah.
I remember, before Access, my mother was in college and she was doing like all like massage therapy and stuff. And so I was kind of her model, and like she was doing Indian head massage. I remember at that time, like my head used to just race and race and race. And she was like doing the Indian head massage. And I was like, can you like just like open up my brain and like reach in and just like pull it out for me? Like that would be way better. Like just take it out. Make this thing stop.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing too. It's like, how much have you tried to explain to the people around you what is actually going on for you as a way of trying to handle what you don't know how to handle because you have no fucking tools to handle it. Like I would do that as well. I would just reach and like try to find somebody who might kind of get what's going on for me. And again, like when that wouldn't happen, because one of the things that is amazing about Xmen, and it's one of my favorite parts of facilitating the classes, is that no two Xmen are the same. Everybody is different. And even if, this person's been labeled with ADD and this person's been labeled with ADD and this person's been labeled with ADD, how that shows up for them is very different, because it's actually, from our perspective and from Xmen's perspective, these disabilities are not their abilities that we just don't have the information of how to use. So it's like having this ability to do something, just like, there's people in the world who can run like long distances. Nobody questions that. It's like, oh, they just have that skill, they're just born with it. Well, what if you're born with things that no one talks about that make you very different with how you engage and perceive the world? And because no one has ever told you that's actually what's going on, you've made it wrong. You've been trying to handle it by creating pretty intelligent and amazing coping skills. Like I will say, a lot of Xmen have come up with some really amazing ways of dealing with their level of awareness, me included, and it's like, what if all of that is actually the greatness of you? You've just never been given the information of how to create it that way. You've been more doing, I must be completely fucked up and wrong because I'm so different than everyone else.
And like, so if you do have someone who's kind of like just listening to this podcast for the first time or whatever, and they're like, okay, yeah, I have racing mind nonstop, anxiety all the time, in and out, sometimes I'm good, sometimes I'm not. Like, what's a tool from Xmen that they could maybe start using?
Yeah. So one of my favorite tools, and it's like, if you are familiar with Access, we have the tool of who does this belong to? And for anyone who has these neurodiverse bodies and worlds, you're going to be aware of even more than the average Joe. So you have a lot more like awareness. And so you do have like this who does this belong to tool is like something you can start to use. And to add to that, who does this belong to? Also asking yourself, is this mine? Is a huge like addition to the energy of that. One of the things that can occur for people who have these particular capacities, I'll say, is that there's not a lot of separation between you and what you're aware of in everybody else's world. And so who does this belong to can often be kind of frustrating because you're like, who does this belong to? And you get that like a lot of times they'll be like, oh, it is me. Because you don't have a separation between you and the person that you're actually aware of. So in your world somewhere, you are that person. Because Xmen don't do separation. They have like less filters than other people in the world. And so when you add, is this mine? It like addresses the energy in a very different way. And so it can give you a little bit more like, oh, okay, this isn't actually mine. I'm aware of this. And the other tip and tool I use all the time is, what am I perceiving? Like, because pretty much every single thing that is going through your head, that is going on in your body, that you think is you, is most likely something you're perceiving and not you at all.
I love that what you just said about like for you there actually is no separation between you and anyone else. So when you ask who does it belong to, it really does seem like it's yours, because you're like oneness with everyone. It just showed me, like when I walk into, like say you walk into the house, and maybe like your partner or your husband or someone living with you, like they're frustrated or maybe they're irritated or anxious or whatever. Like I'm almost like, I walk in and then I go, I don't like cognitively do it, but I walk in and then all of a sudden I'm like sucking the energy in the room, and then and it's like so fast, and like it's so like there I am, frustration. It has to be mine because it's so real in my world. How could it not be mine?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you're also aware of like an Xmen's first language is energy. So you're actually aware of what's going on energetically for you and for other people. Are people actually willing to be transparent with what's actually going on for them? Or do most people try to pretend or cover up or hide what's actually going on? So for an Xmen, it's like, I can't tell you how many times like I've picked a fight with my husband thinking I was mad about something, but he was actually mad about something that he just wasn't willing to admit he was mad about. So and then when it all comes out, I'm like, oh my God, that was fucking exhausting. It was like a whole round robin just to get to like he actually, something occurred at work that was upsetting to him, but he just was like, he just didn't, he was just,
yeah.
But that's been like, that's just one example. Like
one example of what Xmen do.
How many, and at least now I know when that energy shows up, and we both know. And so then, it's a bit of a, it's easier to have the conversation after the fact that things occur of like, oh, that actually was like not.
I'd say that's one of the things that the tools have really gifted me as well, is like that, like that who does it belong to tool. You hear it a lot. It's one of the first tools you get in Access Consciousness. It's included in the bars class. Like it's used again and again and again and again and again in every video, every class. Who does it belong to? But when I started playing with the Xmen classes and tools, like who does it belong to took on a whole new like level, depth, and meaning. Like it wasn't just who does it belong to. It was like really like, how aware are you? How much are you picking up on from your environment, from people, from thousands of miles, So I'm very grateful for that tool, because that's one of the tools that you talk about. Like Xmen are just missing tools. Like, and if you'd given me this tool maybe when I was like 3 or 4, it might have really made my life a bit easier.
Well, and like, it's so true. And like, one of the other things that for me, these Xmen tools and facilitating these classes have been such a gift is really, truly getting that there is no one else on this planet that is like you. Like you are unique unto yourself. And how much are we all taught to look around and try to find something that like, is it okay to actually, that wasn't even a concept that lived in my world before Xmen and these tools, that like literally there is no one on this planet like me. I spent my whole life seeking somebody who might be like me to validate like that I'm not a whack job, like that I'm not like, you know what I mean? Like most of us are doing the exact opposite of what actually will create more ease for us. And like having that information, like, okay, like this idea that other people are going to perceive the world like I do, that people are going to see what I see, that are going to be able to hear what it is that I'm aware of, that they're going to know what it is that I know. Like that basic idea will only create like frustration, disappointment, and doubt, like for you as a being, if you think that you have to have all of that to have you. You really like going to the space of no one here is like me actually has more room for you. And what is
even that question, like, what do I know that nobody else knows? Like, that is really a great question. And Xmen could be asking every single day, every moment, nearly.
Yeah, 100%.
Wow. And it until you really ask the question, you really don't start to get that you know something that nobody else knows.
Mm-hmm. And and that there's things available to you, and that you know ways in which to create futures that nobody else here knows.
Wow.
And if people really truly got that, like so much of where so many of us get stuck in the world wouldn't exist.
Yeah, there'd be no competition. There'd be no fight. There'd be no comparing. There'd be nobody trying to win or lose or be right or wrong, because everyone would be just knowing what they know and trusting themselves and creating what they know is possible. Oh my God, if all the Xmen in the world started creating what they know is possible, it'd be so much more fun.
That might be my like secret plan.
I love that. So, Cara, we'll start wrapping it up. I know. What?
I said, calling all Xmen.
Calling all Xmen. Calling all Xmen. If you would like to create a different world and live in a world that is funny and joyful and ease and kind and nurturing, check out the Xmen stuff. You know, it's www.accessconsciousness.com/Xmen. Cara has a Facebook page, Cara Wright. Actually, I posted it in the thread. So
yeah, it's Cara Wright, CFMW.
CFMW, Cara Wright, CFMW. And Cara does have an Xmen class coming up this weekend. It's starting on Friday evening, Eastern Standard Time. So this is the first time like you're able to do Xmen, like the class like this online, right? Because of COVID.
Yes.
So it's a possibility if you're anywhere in the world, you can actually go on and take these Xmen classes online now. So it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 4 hours each day. And then if you're interested and this weekend doesn't work out, I know you have another one coming up in December.
Yes.
She also just finished this Being Alice series, and it was like 5 days of Being Alice, and it was really sharing the Xmen tools. It was great. It was only like $35 or something. Mm-hmm. And it's still on her website. So you can go to www.carawright.com and you can still sign up and get the recordings of those videos she did. They were brilliant.
Yes. It was a great series.
It was really great. So thank you I'm going to actually just post the Xmen class in here in the comments, just in case anybody's wondering. And yeah, so, I mean, just to sum it up, I suppose the tools that if you could, give people and they're like wanting to play with the Xmen stuff is really just to start asking, like, who does it belong to? Right.
Is this mine? And what am I perceiving?
What am I perceiving? Is this mine? And what's right about me that I'm not getting?
Yes. Another amazing question to be asking.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining, Cara. Thanks for everyone for watching, listening, wherever you are in the world. And I will see you again next week.
Bye, guys.